My parents canceled my 18th birthday to please my brother. He smirked and told me to just leave, so I did. That very night, I packed my bags and walked away from the only home I had ever known. A year later, he found me, demanding the successful life I had built for myself, claiming it was a life that I had stolen from him. This is the night my entire life changed, and you won't believe how it ends. Make sure you're subscribed to see it all. We love hearing from you. What's your favorite way to celebrate a birthday? Let us know in the comments. The 3 tiny, silver-glittered 18 candles felt heavy in my palm. They were cheap, the kind you get from the discount store, but they were the only birth-related item I'd bought for myself. I hadn't asked for a party. I knew better. My entire life had been a lesson in managing expectations, especially where my older brother, Leo, was concerned. A party was just going to be my best friend, Chloe, coming over for pizza and a $3 cake. It was pathetic, really, for a legal adult, but it was mine. I was in my room, supposedly studying for a calculus final, but my mind was elsewhere. I was mentally calculating the hours until I could finally, legally, be my own person. In just 8 hours at midnight, I would be 18. I was staring at my laptop screen, not at calculus problems, but at an email I'd read at least 50 times. An acceptance. A full-ride scholarship. A key to a door I hadn't been sure would ever open. I was so lost in the glow of the screen, so wrapped up in the fantasy of freedom, that I didn't hear my mother, Diane, knock. She didn't wait for an answer, of course. The door swung open, and she stood there, her arms crossed, her face set in that familiar mask of polite inconvenience. "Ilara, I need to talk to you," she said. Her voice was too calm, a warning siren I had learned to respect. I minimized the email window, my heart sinking. "What's up?" "About tomorrow," she said, sighing as if the word itself was a burden. "Your get-together, we're going to have to cancel it." I stared at her. The words were simple, but they didn't compute. "Cancel it? It's just Chloe. We're just ordering a pizza." "Leo has a huge exam on Monday," Diane said, already turning to leave as if the explanation was obvious and final. "He's very stressed, and frankly, having people over, even just one, is going to be too distracting. He needs quiet to focus." The excuse was so paper-thin it was transparent. Our house wasn't small. My room was at the opposite end of the hall from Leo's. He regularly blasted video games at full volume, the sound of gunfire and his own shouted curses echoing through the walls while I was trying to study, and my parents never said a word. "Mom, he's 20 years old," I said, my voice rising despite myself. "He can't handle me and Chloe eating pizza in the kitchen. It's my 18th birthday." Diane turned back, her eyes narrowing. "Don't take that tone, Ilara. Your brother is under a lot of pressure. His business degree is very demanding." This was the family mantra, Leo's demanding degree. It was the excuse for his laundry piling up, his car, which they paid for, being a mess, and his general inability to be a decent human being. "And my calculus final isn't," I argued, gesturing to my desk. "That's different and you know it," she snapped. "Leo's future is, well, it's important. We can't have him failing a class because you wanted a party." "It's not a party," I almost yelled. "It's a cake. It's the one day a year that's supposed to be about me. You haven't. You didn't even get me a card." It slipped out, a moment of weakness, and she pounced on it. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. You're not a child. We'll celebrate some other time. Maybe next month." We both knew next month meant never. Next month was a graveyard of broken promises and forgotten events. "Fine," I said, the word tasting like ash. "Whatever." She nodded, satisfied. "Good, just text your friend and tell her it's off." She shut the door, leaving me in the silence. I sat there for a full minute, the glitter from the tiny candles digging into my palm. I felt the familiar burn behind my eyes, the prickle of tears I'd spent a lifetime learning to swallow. This was it, the final proof. I wasn't a daughter, I was an inconvenience. An extra, a supporting character in the Leo show. I stood up, my legs feeling shaky, and walked out of my room. I went downstairs to the living room, where my father, Mark, sat in his armchair, reading the paper, pretending he hadn't heard a thing. Leo was sprawled on the couch, controller in hand, eyes glued to the TV. "Did you know about this?" I asked my father. He rustled the paper, not looking up. "Your mother knows best, Alara. Leo needs to study. Don't make a fuss." Don't make a fuss, the other family mantra. Leo paused his game, a smirk playing on his lips. He was the golden child, tall, with the easy C. Harm he reserved for outsiders, and the casual cruelty he saved for me. "What's the problem, Alara? Upset you can't have your little kid party?" "It was just pizza, Leo," I said, my voice trembling. "It wouldn't have bothered you." He laughed, a short, barking sound. "Everything you do bothers me. You're always moping around, tapping on your keyboard, acting like you're so smart. It's annoying." He turned back to his game, then, as a final shot, he looked over his shoulder. "Honestly, no one wants you here anyway. If you hate it so much, just leave." I looked at him. Then I looked at my mother, who was wiping down an already clean kitchen counter, her back to me. I looked at my father, who had lifted his newspaper higher, creating a paper wall between us. Leo's words hung in the air. "Just leave." My mother said nothing. My father said nothing. They were agreeing with him. In that moment, something inside me didn't break. It clicked. It slotted into place. The final, heavy piece of a puzzle I had been assembling for years. I saw my future in that room, an endless gray expanse of being quiet, of being secondary, of making myself small to make Leo feel big. I turned, my spine rigid, and walked back up the stairs. The tiny, glittering candles were still clutched in my hand, and I realized they were no longer a symbol of a pathetic birthday. They were a declaration of war. My 18th birthday, the one day that was supposed to be mine, was just another sacrifice to the family god, my brother. And I decided, right then, that it would be the last. I closed my bedroom door, and this time I clicked the lock. It was a flimsy, residential lock, one Leo had picked a dozen times to steal my things or read my journal, but tonight, the sound of it settling was a small, satisfying punctuation mark. My breath was coming in short, sharp gasps. The anger was so potent, so pure, it felt like a jolt of electricity. It burned away the tears before they could even form. "Just leave." He said it so easily. A throwaway line, a final, careless shove. And my parents, their silence, that was the real betrayal. It wasn't Leo's cruelty, I expected that. It was their quiet, passive endorsement of it. I sat on my bed, my hands shaking. For a few minutes, I just let the silence of the room settle. I could hear the muffled explosions from Leo's game downstairs. I could hear the clink of my mother putting away dishes. The ordinary sounds of a family I was no longer a part of. I looked at the clock, 9:30 p.m. "Just leave." "Okay." I stood up and walked to my closet. I pulled down the large, worn duffel bag I'd used for debate tournaments. I opened my drawers and with methodical calm began to pack. I wasn't just throwing things in, I was curating. I took my best jeans, all my socks and underwear, the 3 sweaters I'd bought with my own money. I left the clothes my mother had bought me, the ones she always criticized me for not wearing correctly. I went to my desk. I packed my laptop and its charger first. Then my textbooks. They were heavy, but they were my priority. I grabbed my toothbrush, my hairbrush, and the small, hidden-away box of makeup I'd experimented with. Then I went to the loose floorboard under my rug. I'd found it years ago, a small, hollow space. My parents, obsessed with Leo's life and their own social standing, never bothered with the upkeep of my part of the house. I knelt, my fingers finding the groove, and lifted the plank of wood. Inside was a faded, floral-patterned tin box. I opened it. On top was a passbook for a bank account my parents didn't know existed. Beside it was a small, folded letter. I opened it, though I knew it by heart. It was from my maternal grandmother, Nana Rose, who had passed away 3 years ago. She had always seen me. While my parents cooed over Leo's C+ report cards, she would slip me $20 bills for my straight A's. "My dearest Alara," her looping cursive read, "I've left you a little something. Your mother will say it's for the family, and your father will say it's for Leo's education. It is for neither. It is for yours. You are the clever one, my dear. Don't let them dim your light. Use this to get away and build something for yourself. Don't look back. Inside the bank book, the balance read $10,432. Her little something, $10,000, and the $432 I'd added from my secret, under-the-table job coding websites for a local developer. Beneath the bank book was my passport, my birth certificate, and my social security card, which I'd lost 2 years ago and then found and hidden. And underneath that, folded into a neat square, was the acceptance letter. The full-ride scholarship to a university 3 states away. Not the local community college my parents had insisted was good enough for me. I put the tin box in the bottom of my duffel bag. I looked at my shaking hands, at the packed bag, at the room that had been my prison. I looked at the smug, smirking face of my brother in my mind's eye. I looked at my mother's cold indifference and my father's weak-willed silence. They all just stared, expecting me to cry and go to my room. Expecting me to swallow this, just as I'd swallowed every other injustice. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. They had forgotten Nana Rose. They had forgotten that I was smart enough to get a job they knew nothing about. They had forgotten I was capable enough to apply for scholarships in secret. They had forgotten that while they were busy building Leo's future, I had been quietly, meticulously building my own. They thought I was a prisoner in their house. They had no idea I'd had the key in my pocket for months, just waiting for the right moment to use it. Leo hadn't banished me. He had, with one final, arrogant push, given me the only thing I'd ever truly wanted from him: permission to leave. As I zipped the duffel bag, the final, metallic rasp felt deafeningly loud in the quiet of my room. Every item I'd packed was a testament to a life lived in the margins. The bag was heavy, not just with textbooks, but with years of accumulated neglect. My brother Leo was the sun. We were all expected to be his planets, orbiting his needs, his moods, his demanding business degree. He wasn't just the golden child, he was the only child in their eyes. I was just a helper. I remembered when I won the state-level coding competition in 10th grade. The prize was $500 and a plaque. The ceremony was on a Saturday. My parents didn't come. "We can't, honey," Diane had said, not looking up from her phone. "Leo has football practice, and your father and I are going to watch. It's important for his morale." It wasn't a game. It was practice. He was a mediocre player on a mediocre team. I took the bus to the ceremony alone, accepted my plaque, and took the bus home. When I showed it to them, my father nodded and said, "That's nice, Alara. Did you finish your chores?" Leo had picked up the plaque, weighed it in his hand, and said, Bet I could sell this." Then there was the money. My parents weren't wealthy, but they were comfortable. Comfortable enough to lease a brand new car for Leo the second he turned 16. Comfortable enough to pay his tuition, his apartment rent near his university, and his fraternity dues, all while he barely scraped by with C-minuses. When I had asked just once about a budget for my own college applications, my mother had waved me off. "We need to be realistic, Alara. With Leo's expenses, we're stretched thin. Community college is a perfectly sensible option. You can live at home." Living at home, it wasn't an offer, it was a life sentence. My mother, Diane, was the chief architect of this dynamic. She was a woman obsessed with the appearance of a perfect family. To her, Leo was the charming, handsome, future CEO who would make her look good. I was the quiet, nerdy, difficult daughter who didn't fit the picture. She saw my achievements not as something to be proud of, but as an awkward imbalance. "Don't show off, Alara," she'd hiss at family dinners when I'd mention a good grade. "It makes Leo feel bad." My father, Mark, was a ghost in his own home. He was a man defined by his passivity. His entire life was a series of strategic retreats to avoid confrontation with my mother. His silence wasn't neutrality, it was an active choice. By enabling Diane's worship of Leo, by refusing to ever stand up for me, he was just as guilty. He was the one who taught me the most painful lesson, that love wasn't just about action, but about the lack of it. His inaction was a daily statement of my worth. I looked around the room. It was bare. All the posters were down, all the books were packed. It looked like the room of someone who had never really lived there at all, which felt accurate. I walked to my desk and pulled out a single sheet of paper. I took a pen. My hands were steady now. The anger had cooled into a hard, dense core of resolve. I thought about writing a long, scathing letter, listing every grievance, every forgotten birthday, every canceled plan, every time my name was forgotten in favor of his. But I knew it would be a waste of ink. They wouldn't read it. They wouldn't understand it. And even if they did, they wouldn't care. It would just be more drama from Alara. So I kept it simple. I wrote 4 words. You were right, I'll leave. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. I folded the note and left it on the center of my pillow. I checked the clock. 11:48 p.m. 12 minutes until my 18th birthday. 12 minutes until I was legally free. I put my hand on my laptop bag. My plan had always been to leave in the morning to take the 10:00 a.m. bus. But Leo's words, just leave, echoed in my head. It wasn't a curse. It was an instruction. And for the first time in my life, it was an instruction from him I was delighted to follow. I opened my phone and opened the rideshare app. I Ped in the address for the 24-hour regional bus station, 2 towns over. I hit confirm. A car was 7 minutes away. I slung the laptop bag over one shoulder and lifted the heavy duffel with the other. I took one last look at the room. I felt nothing. No sadness, no nostalgia, just relief. I walked to the door, unlocked it, and stepped into the hallway. My investigation hadn't been an investigation at all. It had been a covert operation of survival, running for years right under their noses. It started the day Nana Rose died. My mother had been sorting through her things, and she tossed the floral tin box at me. Your grandmother left you her old jewelry box, she'd said, dismissively. Probably just costume junk. Take it. Inside, there was no jewelry, just the bank book and the letter. That letter became my Bible. Nana Rose hadn't just given me money, she'd given me a directive. Don't let them dim your light. From that day, I became a different person. On the outside, I was the same quiet, compliant Alara. But on the inside, I was a strategist. I started planning my escape with the meticulousness of a general planning a campaign. My first move was securing the money. I took the bus to the bank branch listed in the passbook, a small credit union in her old neighborhood. I used the lost ID cards I'd saved to prove my identity, and with the help of a very kind bank teller, converted the account to a minor's trust that I would gain full access to on my 18th birthday. My second move was education. I knew Nana's money was a start, but it wouldn't cover 4 years at a top school. I needed scholarships. My grades were already perfect. That was my passive-aggressive rebellion, but I needed more. I joined the debate team. I joined the coding club. I volunteered at the library. Every single activity was a line item on an application. While Leo was spending his afternoons playing video games, I was in the school library until it closed, writing essay after essay, tailoring each one. My third and most important move was secrecy. I created a new email address. I used the library's computers for all my research and applications. I had all correspondence sent to a P.O. box I'd rented with cash from my job. The job, that was my cleverest trick. I told my parents I was volunteering at the local community center, helping old people with computers. They loved it. It was charitable, it got me out of the house, and best of all, it was unpaid, which meant I wasn't getting any selfish ideas. But I wasn't at the community center. I was in the back office of a small, local web developer. I'd built a portfolio in secret and walked in, asking for an internship. The owner, a woman named Sarah, had looked at my code for 5 minutes and offered me a part-time job instead. You're better than my last 2 college interns, she'd said. I was paid in cash every Friday, which I dutifully deposit into my secret account. This was my trap, my leverage. It wasn't a complex legal document or a dark secret I'd uncovered. It was just the truth. The truth that I was competent. The truth that I was capable. The truth that, while they were all focused on Leo, I had built a 5-star, fully funded escape plan. I walked down the hallway, my steps silent on the carpet. The duffel bag was heavy, but the adrenaline was singing in my veins. I got to the top of the stairs. The low murmur of the TV was still coming from the living room. I took a breath and started down. 1 step, 2, 3, I was halfway down when a voice stopped me. "Ilara." It was my mother. She had come out of the kitchen and was standing at the foot of the stairs, a dish rag in her hand. Her face was a mask of confusion. "Where on earth do you think you're going with that?" she asked, gesturing to my bag. "It's almost midnight. Don't be dramatic." Dramatic, that word again. Their catch-all term for any emotion I displayed that wasn't quiet compliance. "I'm leaving," I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. She laughed, a short, sharp, disbelieving sound. "Leaving? Don't be ridiculous. Where would you go? You have no money." "I have enough," I said. This finally got my father to lower his newspaper. "What's this? What's going on?" Leo paused his game again, turning to look at us. The smirk was back. "Oh, she's leaving. Right. Where are you going to go, Ilara? To Chloe's? You'll be back in an hour, crying." "No," I said, taking another step down. I was at the bottom now, standing on the entryway tile just a few feet from the front door. "I'm not going to Chloe's, and I'm not coming back." The amusement on their faces began to curdle. My mother's disbelieving smile tightened. My father's brow furrowed. Leo, for the first time, actually looked intrigued. "Stop this, Ilara," my mother commanded, dropping the dish rag on the hall table. "You're 18 tomorrow, you can't just walk out. It's not safe." "It's 11:59 p.m., Mom," I said, check. King my phone. "In 1 minute I will be 18, and you can't stop me." As if on cue, the numbers on my lock screen clicked over. 12:00 a.m. Happy birthday to me. I put my hand on the doorknob. "You are not walking out that door," Diane shouted, lunging forward. She grabbed my arm. "You've embarrassed this family enough for one night." "Embarrassed you?" I said, pulling my arm from her grasp. "I haven't done anything. I'm just leaving, like you wanted, like Leo said. No one wants you here anyway. He's right, so I'm going." "I was joking, you idiot," Leo spat, getting off the couch. "You're really going to leave because of a joke? You're pathetic." "It wasn't a joke," I said, looking straight at him. "It was the first true thing you've said to me in years, and I'm taking your advice." "Ilara, think about this," my father said, finally standing up, using his reasonable voice. "Your mother is upset. We're all upset. You can't just disappear. What about your studies? What about college?" "What about it?" I asked. "You told me community college. You told me to be realistic." "Well, yes," he stammered, "but you can't pay for that on your own." "That's where you're wrong." This was the moment, the reveal. I unzipped the small front pocket of my duffel bag and pulled out the floral-patterned tin. I didn't open it. I just held it up. "You remember Nana Rose's costume jewelry box, Mom?" Diane's eyes widened. She knew. In that instant, she knew exactly what she had done. She left you that junk," she said, her voice weak. "She left me $10,000, actually," I said. The room went dead silent. Even Leo's game, left on pause, seemed to be holding its breath. "She left it for my education. She knew you'd try to take it for Leo. Her letter was very specific." My mother's face went white, then a blotchy, furious red. "That money, that was for the family. You are selfish. A selfish, ungrateful child. We fed you, we clothed you." "You gave me scraps," I said, my voice low and shaking with a year's worth of fury. "You gave me leftovers. You gave me Leo's hand-me-down attention. I've been paying for my own clothes, my own school supplies, my own everything for 2 years. With a job you thought was volunteering." You lied to us," my father whispered, looking genuinely wounded. "You lied to me," I shot back. "You told me I wasn't worth a birthday cake. You told me my future wasn't as important as his. You told me to be quiet, to be small, to make no fuss. I'm done. I'm done with all of it." My phone buzzed in my pocket. My ride was here. "You can't," my mother whispered, her anger suddenly collapsing into a strange, desperate panic. "You can't just leave. What will people say?" And there it was, not "we love you," not "please stay," not "we're sorry," but "what will people say?" "I guess you'll have to find out," I said. I opened the front door. The cool night air hit my face. It was the air of a new world. I saw the headlights of the car waiting at the curb. "Ilara," my father yelled. "If you walk out that door, don't you ever come back," my mother shrieked. It was a threat, but it sounded like a promise. Leo just stood there, his mouth slightly open, the smirk finally gone. He looked confused, as if his entire world had just tilted off its axis. He had pushed, and for the first time I hadn't just bent. I had broken free. "Goodbye," I said. I stepped out onto the porch. I walked down the path, my duffel bag bumping against my leg. I opened the car door, threw my bags in the back, and got in. "Bus station?" the driver asked. "Yes, please." As we pulled away, I looked back just once. My mother and father were standing in the doorway, framed in the yellow light, looking small and furious. Leo was standing behind them, just a shadow in the hall. I turned my face forward and never looked back. The first few months were a blur of terrifying, exhilarating freedom. The bus ride was 12 hours of cramped seats and bad coffee, but it was the best 12 hours of my life. I arrived in a new city, a new state, with 2 bags and a bank account. My case for my new life was built on pure, unadulterated work. I checked into my dorm, a tiny, cinder-block room I shared with a girl who was blissfully normal, and I got to work. My scholarship covered tuition and the dorm, and Nana's money was my living fund. I was careful with every penny, living on instant noodles and library coffee. I got a campus job in the university's IT department, my experience from Sarah's office making me an easy hire. I excelled in my classes. Computer science it was like breathing. It made sense. The logic, the structure. If you put in the right code, you got the right result. It was the complete opposite of the arbitrary, emotional chaos of my family. For the first 3 weeks, there was silence. I had a new burner phone and a new number. I hadn't given it to them. Then the emails started. They found my new university email address, which was publicly listed. The first was from my mother. "Subject, your little tantrum. Ilara, this has gone on long enough. You've made your point. You've embarrassed us all. Your father is very upset. You need to call us immediately and tell us when you're coming home." I deleted it. A week later, another one, this time from my father. "Subject, please, Ilara. Your mother is worried sick. This isn't like you. We can talk about this. Whatever job you think you have, it's not a future. Your mother, she's not well. Her health is fragile. You're being very cruel." This one gave me pause. The fragile health card was an old, worn-out one, usually pulled when she didn't get her way at a restaurant. I felt a small, stupid pang of guilt. I typed a reply, my fingers hovering over the keys. "I'm fine, I'm safe." Then I remembered her face in the doorway, screaming at me. I remembered the years of silence. I deleted the draft. I blocked both their email addresses. Then they escalated. A month into my first semester, I got a call on my dorm room phone. I never used it. I picked it up. "Ilara, is that you?" It was my mother. My blood ran cold. How had she gotten this number? "How did you call me?" I asked, my voice flat. "We called the university. We told them it was a family emergency. Ilara, you need to come home. This is not right. We're your family." "I have to study," I said. "You're failing, aren't you?" she said, her voice suddenly switching from worried to accusing. "You're in trouble, and you're too proud to admit it. You've wasted your grandmother's money, haven't you?" "I'm on the dean's list, Mom," I said. "I have a 4, and I haven't touched Nana's money. I have a job. I'm supporting myself." There was a heavy silence on the line. I had expected her to be happy, or at least relieved. Instead, she sounded angry. "A 4, she repeated, as if the concept was offensive. "Well, isn't that nice? While you're off playing at being a genius, your brother is struggling. He's very stressed. He might fail his exams, all because of you." Because of me, I was incredulous. You upset the family balance, you left, and it's put everyone under so much stress. Leo can't focus. Your father and I are fighting. You did this, Alara. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of it almost made me laugh. I had been their scapegoat in person, and now I was their scapegoat in absentia. "I have to go, Mom. I have class." "Don't you hang up on me. We are going to stop paying your phone bill," she shrieked. "I've been paying my own phone bill for 6 months," I said calmly. "Goodbye." I hung up. I called the registrar's office and, citing a toxic family situation, had a privacy lock put on my account. They could no longer find me, call me, or access any of my information. I was, for all intents and purposes, a ghost. Leo never called, he never emailed, I didn't exist to him. Thanksgiving came and it was hard. I saw other students going home. I ate a sad turkey sandwich in the mostly empty dining hall. A wave of loneliness washed over me, so strong it buckled my knees. Maybe I should call. Maybe I was too harsh. Then I remembered his smirk. "No one wants you here anyway." I finished my sandwich, went to the library, and finished my C++ project. I got an A+. By the time my first year was ending, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I'd made friends. I'd been promoted to a supervisor position at my IT job. I'd even moved out of the dorms for the summer, signing a lease on a small, neat 2-bedroom apartment with Chloe, who had decided to transfer to my university to get away from her own family drama. My new life was quiet, it was simple, and it was all mine. I had built it piece by piece. The case for my own existence was closed. It was a Tuesday night, exactly 1 year and 1 week since I'd left. I was 19. My apartment was quiet, filled with the scent of coffee and old books. Chloe was at a late-night study session. I was hunched over my desk, deep in a complex algorithm for my finals, when a loud, frantic pounding echoed through the apartment. It wasn't a normal knock, it was a fist. My heart leaped into my throat. I wasn't expecting anyone. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. My blood turned to ice. It was Leo. He looked terrible. He was wearing a wrinkled, stained sweatshirt from his university, the one I knew my parents had paid so much for. His hair was greasy and unkempt. His face was blotchy and his eyes were wild. He pounded on the door again. "Ilara, I know you're in there. I can see the lights. Open this door." How did he find me? My address was unlisted. I hadn't spoken to anyone in my family in almost 8 months. "Leo, go away," I shouted through the door. "Open the door, Ilara, or I'll kick it in. I swear." He sounded unhinged, fearing he'd cause a scene and get me in trouble with my landlord. I drew a shaky breath and undid the deadbolt. I opened the door just a crack. He shoved it open, stumbling into my entryway. The smell of stale alcohol wafted off him. "Wow," he breathed, his eyes darting around my small, clean living room. He looked at the bookshelf crammed with textbooks. He looked at my neat desk with its dual monitor setup. He looked at the framed photos of me and Chloe laughing. "What is this?" he whispered, his voice trembling. "How did you get all this?" "It's an apartment, Leo," I said, crossing my arms. "What do you want? How did you find me?" "Chloe," he spat. "She still has her same hometown number. I told her you were in an accident, that I needed to find you." He had tricked my best friend. The rage that filled me was so hot it almost choked me. "You need to leave," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Leave," he shrieked, his voice cracking. "I'm not going anywhere. This should be mine." He gestured wildly at my apartment, at my books, at my life. "What are you talking about?" I asked, completely baffled. "This is my apartment. I pay for it." "With what money?" he demanded. "You stole it. You stole Nana's money. That was family money. Dad told me. You took it and you ran and you left us with nothing. I left you, I said. Leo, I took exactly what was mine. Money she left me. Money I earned. Lies, he screamed. He was crying now, huge, gulping, angry sobs. You've been living this life, this easy life. Easy, I repeated the word, a humorless laugh escaping me. Easy, I work 40 hours a week on top of a full course load. I've been living on instant noodles and scholarships. What part of that is easy, Leo? It should have been mine, he roared, and he slammed his fist into my wall, leaving a small, moon-shaped crack in the drywall. He started to pace, his hands yanking at his hair, his entire body shaking. It was a full-on, terrifying meltdown. They kicked me out, he whispered, his voice collapsing. Who? The university. Yes, I failed. I failed my classes. They cut off my funding. The fraternity kicked me out, and when I went home, they were mad. He looked at me, his eyes full of a venomous, uncomprehending rage that chilled me to the bone. They were mad at me, he said, as if this was the most shocking injustice the world had ever produced. They said I was wasting my potential. They said, why can't you be more like Alara? I just stared at him. You, he suddenly screamed, pointing a shaking finger at my face. You did this. You left and you made me look bad. You set this all up. You stole the life that was meant for me. This was supposed to be my life. The smart one, the successful one. I was supposed to have all this. You were just the quiet girl. You were supposed to stay home. You were supposed to help. The words hung in the air, a raw, naked confession of his entire worldview. I wasn't his sister. I was his supporting staff. My success wasn't my own. It was a theft, taken directly from his reserves. He genuinely believed that my achievements were a limited resource that, by right, belonged to him. I wasn't scared anymore. I was just done. The last, lingering threads of sibling-based guilt, of family obligation, evaporated. I saw him for exactly what he was, a hollow, spoiled, pathetic boy who had been handed the world and had simply dropped it. I let the silence stretch, watching him heave for breath, waiting for the next accusation. But he seemed to have run out of steam. He just stood there, glaring at me, trembling, a child in a man's body, waiting for me to fix the mess he had made. I didn't steal anything, Leo, I said. My voice was as flat and cold as a steel plate. You're just angry because for the first time in your life, you're facing consequences and you're looking for someone to blame. It's always been me, hasn't it? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Let's be very clear, I continued, taking a step toward him. He instinctively recoiled. You had everything. You had a car you didn't pay for. You had an apartment you didn't earn. You had 2 parents who canceled my 18th birthday, the one thing I ever asked for, just so you wouldn't be stressed. You had every advantage, every privilege, every cent they could spare. And you wasted it. You partied, you slacked off, and you failed. You don't know, he stammered. I know this, I said, gesturing to my desk, my textbooks, my small, tidy kitchen. I earned this. I got the scholarships you were too lazy to apply for. I worked the jobs you were too proud to take. I built this brick by boring brick while you were busy blowing through mom and dad's money. I didn't steal your life, Leo. I just went and built my own while you were setting yours on fire. He looked around wildly, as if searching for a weapon, an argument. Nothing. So what? He finally sneered, his last pathetic defense. You're going to watch me fail? I'm your brother, you have to help me. Help you? I asked. You mean give you money, let you stay here, let you destroy this too? You owe me, he yelled. Mom and Dad, they're cutting me off. They said I have to get a job, a job. He said the word like it was a terminal diagnosis. And in that moment, I felt a flicker of something dark and cold. It was pity. It was a profound, bottomless pity for this creature in front of me, who was so broken by privilege that the mere concept of work was a catastrophe. But pity isn't an obligation. No, Leo, I said, walking to the door and opening it wide. I don't owe you anything. I paid my dues. I spent 18 years as your shadow. I'm done. You can't, he pleaded, his anger collapsing into pure, desperate panic. Where will I go? What will I do? I don't know, I said, and for the first time, it's not my problem. He stared at me, his face crumbling. He was seeing the truth. I was no longer his safety net. I was no longer the family scapegoat. I was just a stranger in an apartment he'd invaded. You told me to leave, Leo, I said softly. You, Mom, and Dad, you all made it very clear that no one wanted me there, so I left. And I built a life where I am wanted. By my friends, by my professors, by myself. You should try it sometime. He didn't move. He just stood there, defeated, a void where a person should be. Now it's your turn, I said. Leave. I waited. He looked at me at the open door at the life he couldn't have. He gave one last, shuddering sob of pure, childish rage, and then, with his shoulders slumped, he walked out. I watched him go down the hall. He didn't look back. I closed the door. I turned the deadbolt, the click loud and final in the quiet apartment. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, my own legs suddenly shaking. I had done it. It was over. I walked to the wall where his fist had left the crack. I touched the damaged drywall. It was a small thing. I could fix it. I had the tools. I could fix anything. I went back to my desk, sat down, and turned back to my algorithm. I had a final to pass. My vindication wasn't in his failure. It was in my own, quiet, unassailable success. I was free.